this is a very, very rich idea. Yes.
So when you came to Holland to give lectures in Amsterdam, let's try to get Mr. Agoon here in this library.
Yes.
And I would be pleased.
I'm always delighted to enter in libraries. You know, I spent all my life in libraries, but this I discovered this very nice idea to have a library for all people in several languages and for several cultures. This is a perfect answer to a pluralist society. This is the answer. Yes, I believe in this.
Dames en heren, welkom namens de bibliotheek, Openbare Bibliotheek van Den Haag. En we heten in het bijzonder welkom meneer Agoon, die vanavond een lezing wil geven in onze bibliotheek in de Schilderswijk. Het thema of het onderwerp van vanavond is islam en moslims in Nederland met betrekking tot huidige en toekomstige ontwikkelingen. Meneer Agoon zal een lezing houden in het Engels en daarna in het Arabisch. En mocht er behoefte zijn aan een samenvatting in het Turks, dan wordt dat gedaan door meneer Boscha Elbrink.
We heard 4 languages just now as an introduction to this talk. Turkish, Arabic, Dutch, and now English. This is a characteristic of a pluralist, free, democratic society. My statement is that Muslims, since the last 30 years, in all Muslim countries, from Indonesia to Morocco, without exception, including Turkey, of course, Islamic thought in its historical development is either unknown, not known at all, or it is known in a very, very narrow and small fragment. They mean that we use Islam in a fundamentalist way, which means dogmatic way, closed way, intellectually closed, which is true. We have to confess that it is true. And we have to correct ourselves about this by going back to our own history and start to learn. And you have here the books to learn. You have the places to learn. All is provided for you, for Muslims here to learn. And that society asks only this precisely to give the opportunity to develop a scientific knowledge of Islam and other cultures, to understand it and to not speak on Islam on the basis of ignorance of what Islam is in its own expression, not an expression coming from the West. You see, I am insisting. Now we are in the heart of Islamic thought. Nobody can say this is foreign to Islam. I'm speaking on a time when all our problems now of colonialism, of imperialism, of America, of the Gulf War, of all these things didn't exist. It's only Muslims.
The influences, most important influences when I was young in the Kabylie are the influences of nature. It is a wonderful Mediterranean nature. Mountains and also the fields in the mountains in which the Kabyles used to cultivate many fruit trees, and it's a very nice nature, especially when the spring comes. This I have a very strong souvenir and a very strong link to this. And I have also a souvenir of the style of life of the villages in the Kabylie, because we used to have a very autonomous, I would say, democratic life. I mean by that we do not have any police to regulate the life in the villages. We do not have any court to arrange any conflict between people, because all is arranged by the assembly of the village, a democratic assembly of the village. I was very struck by this, because French in that time, it was in the time of French presence in Algeria, they were telling that we didn't have any education for democracy, any education for being a nation like France, of course, is a nation. And this had very deep influence, not only on me, but on all Algerians who went to school afterwards, because they felt very backwarded compared to France.
All Western thinking is based on historical, critical knowledge, which we do not have yet, and which we need to have. You see, these are statements. Perhaps they are hard to hear, but we need to hear it and to tell it in the presence of Europeans, to show that we are ready to enter in the new European space and to bring our contribution to build this new European space, our contribution from our culture, if we understand this culture in a scientific way and not in a fundamentalist way. Why suddenly Islam and Muslims became in their majority fundamentalists, speaking about Islam with this monolithic view on Islam? And here we have to ask ourselves, which kind of political model the new states have used to run the Muslim societies in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s? Which kind of model? Is it a democratic model? Or is it a model based on one political party, based on one leader who commands everything? All depends on one leader, whether he is a king or he is a president, whatever, he is one leader who commands, and the party. So this had a lot of influences on the history of Muslim societies in the last 30 years. I have no time to give you the details of this, but you know it. You are citizens of these countries, and you know what has happened in your own country. Modernity is a very, very, very big thing. We ignore it. I repeat, we ignore it. And we have no right to ignore it, because modernity is the basis for promoting human rights, for which we are claiming all the time. Without modernity, we shall not have human rights. Even if it is given to us by others, we cannot use it because it's not in our mind. Yes? I think to women, the condition of women in Muslim societies. It is intolerable, unacceptable that women are still submitted to a status, a juridical status, which is presented as Islamic. This is a big subject. I shall not deal with it here, but I mention it. But this subject is precisely the test to know if Muslims enter in the modernity or if they close the door and they say, we don't need this. It's for the kuffar.
You are labeling yourself as a Muslim and a humanist.
Yes.
What means humanism for you?
It means a very long tradition of intellectual and cultural elaboration of ideas, but
also of
institutions to bring a way of life for societies in which all conditions,
political
conditions, economic conditions, cultural conditions are provided for the continuous emancipation of human being and the continuous recognition of human being for human being. This way to look to human being and to build a society on this conception of human being, we know that there is violence, that there is exclusion, that there is a lack of tolerance, that there is domination of some groups over other groups. All this existed in all societies. And the humanist attitude is to fight against all what I mentioned and to create a space of freedom that nobody oppresses another body, and a space for a common solidarity between people living in the society to share their thoughts, their creations, their creativity, their artistic participation, everything. So it's this tension, this struggle between, I would say, violence, oppression on one side, the will for domination, the will for expansion, and by the way, religions have been interpreted in that way. Religions have been interpreted to say, I have the truth. I got the true truth, if I may say. And you have to listen to me. What you say is not the truth. What I say is the truth. This is the struggle. Humanist attitude never would say this. Humanist attitude, I listen to you. You have something to tell me. What you tell is interesting because you have your own experience. You have your own sensibility, your own way to look to nature, to look to the society, and you bring something with your own creativity. I am interested in it. I may love it. When you bring to me something very significant, a piece of art, for example, I shall love you.
I shall admire you. I am always open to you. And if you do the same for me, then we are in a humanist attitude. But this has been a very, very hard conquest by human beings in the societies. And until now, we didn't come yet to this result. Look, how are we treating these foreigners? They cook differently, they may dress differently, especially for women. They have different reactions about girls and boys. So all this makes a mixture of images in the minds of Dutch people as well in their minds, which creates shocks.
How to make a bridge between those two?
You need first to give to these people the chance to improve their social status, because they have the social status of workers. They came here just to work, to do the works which
Dutch people
do not agree to do anymore. So
Well, you have to
explain to
Dutch people.
that these people are needed by the society, because Dutch people do not want to work like that in the street, or to collect the garbage, to do all these very low works which nobody would like to do. So if you want people to work for you, you have at least to respect them. This is the first condition. And you have also to help them to be themselves, to feel well with themselves. I mean, to have the opportunity to discover and to learn their own culture, although they live here. But this, I saw that you give them the opportunity to have libraries, to have possibilities to go to school. This is, I think, the way to improve the relationship between these people and the Dutch people.
Een afspraak met de heer Bolkestein.
De heer Bolkestein, ja.
Yes.
Wij gaan even bellen voor u.
Hij.
Mevrouw van Bosma, ik spreek met de jongen van de Beveiligingsdienst. Ik heb een bezoek voor de heer Bolkestein. Ja, die meneer die staat op het plein. Dat klopt, ja. Bonjour.
Député, de vous revoir dans votre beau palais.
Comment ça va, monsieur Chérivé? Oui, effectivement,
Classique
nous
et
sommes
moderne.
dans un bâtiment moderne.
Classique et
Oui.
moderne, hein?
Oui, ça vous plaît?
Ah oui, oui, enfin, oui, ça cache un peu quand même cette façade que j'aime beaucoup.
C'était le ministère de la Justice.
Oui.
Alors maintenant, c'est donc des bâtiments qui font notre Parlement.
C'était nécessaire d'ajouter ce
Oui,
tel moderne pour agrandir ou pour...
oui, je pense, oui. On
vous
était
aviez
vraiment
besoin de-
pressé
Ah oui.
pour avoir un peu plus d'espace.
C'est
Alors, si
dommage
vous-
parce que ça cache...
Ouais,
ça
ouais.
cache la
Il
façade.
faut mélanger
L'ancien et le moderne.
l'ancien et le moderne. Alors, voilà un truc qui...
Ah, ça, avec ça... Ça, c'est de superbe... On n'avait pas vu ça la dernière fois. Hein.
Non.
C'était pas encore prêt.
Le Parlement a été ouvert il y a peut-être un mois, inauguré par la reine.
Ah,
Et nous étions, la dernière fois que nous nous sommes vus, nous étions dans le bâtiment qui est à côté,
oui.
là. Et cette partie-ci n'était pas encore prête.
Oui, oui.
Maintenant, vous voyez là.
Ah oui, c'est important.
C'est un bâtiment d'une certaine envergure, je trouve.
Oui, oui.
Au départ, j'étais un peu sceptique.
Il y a des langues, avec
Maintenant,
ces colonnes, on dirait une cathédrale presque.
Oui.
Sauf que, oui, c'est ouvert vers le ciel.
Alors, vous connaissez
Non, non, mais la démocratie en Hollande a de quoi résister.
oui,
Elle
je
a
pense.
une longue
Oui,
tradition.
Oui, oui, certainement, certainement.
Une culture bien enracinée,
Voilà.
une culture politique.
Voilà.
Et non, non, en Hollande, vous êtes solide.
Vous venez de là d'Amsterdam.
Je viens
Vous
d'Amsterdam.
venez
je
de
viens
donner
de faire,
votre
oui, 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 oui.
allocution.
Absolument,
Ouais.
oui. Oui, oui.
Et vous allez
C'était sur un
repartir pour
sujet qui intéresse notre propos,
Ah bon?
le sujet de l'ijtihad, c'est-à-dire de l'effort d'innovation
Ah
et de
ouais.
réflexion en matière de théologie, d'éthique, de
Ah
droit.
ouais, ouais. Alors maintenant, là, on trouvera. C'est un los.
C'est très agréable.
C'est un peu différent de
C'est grand,
ce
c'est
bureau
bien.
que j'avais la dernière fois.
C'est bien.
Si vous voulez bien, on peut s'installer à table.
Oui,
Je
oui,
peux vous
oui.
vous offrir
Oui, s'il y a quelque chose,
une chaise. Alors notre ami Chervin,
il peut
il va venir.
partager avec
Comme
nous.
Comme tu peux. D'accord.
Je vois que vous avez des lectures.
Oui, 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 oui. On ne peut pas discuter avec vous sans avoir fait des lectures. J'ai préparé ici pour vous un document de travail. C'est le texte de notre,
Oui.
de notre interview la dernière fois que nous nous sommes vus dans la maison de Descartes. Encore une fois, c'est un document de travail. Ça doit encore être peaufiné.
Oui.
Vous pouvez y proposer des changements qui vous conviennent.
Ça fait un texte de
Ça fait
20 pages.
Approximativement 8000 mots.
Oui.
Oui, ce sont des notes que j'ai.
Préparé.
Alors, ma question à vous est, si vous faites cette divorce
Oui.
entre cadre métaphysique général et croyance particulière, quelle est la différence entre l'islam et le christianisme?
Oui. Alors, d'abord, je ne
Je
fais pas...
m'exprime.
Oui, 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 oui. Je ne fais pas, je n'opère pas un divorce. Je ne dis pas qu'il faut les séparer. Je dis simplement que la réflexion théologique dans les trois religions s'est développée dans un cadre métaphysique général qui a épousé plus ou moins le cadre métaphysique tel qu'il est venu de la pensée grecque. Et que cette réflexion théologique peut avoir des effets sur l'évolution des croyances et même sur le rituel. Et les dogmes et les rites ne se trouvent en réalité affectés que lorsque nous arrivons à la modernité.
Parce que c'est la modernité.
Qui s'interroge sur la première fois sur les rites eux-mêmes, la signification des rites et leur portée religieuse. Et lorsque, avec l'ethnologie, nous allons découvrir l'ensemble des rites des autres religions et faire des comparaisons, les gens vont avoir pour la première fois une distance critique vis-à-vis des rites. Tandis que la métaphysique traditionnelle, d'origine platonicienne et plotinienne, ne touchait pas aux rites de cette façon-là. Et les rites ont pu, justement, jusqu'à l'arrivée de la modernité, continuer à être le point de résistance de l'expression religieuse dans les trois religions. C'est pour la première fois que les rites et les croyances elles-mêmes sont mises à distance critique par une modernité qui n'épargne rien parce qu'elle a élargi son champ d'enquête sur la genèse des croyances et le statut des croyances dans le domaine général de la connaissance. Et évidemment, les dogmes, les croyances et les rites de l'islam ne peuvent pas échapper à ce mouvement. De même que pour le christianisme, on est en train et on est déjà intervenu sur la liturgie, sur le rituel, etc. Parce que dans le cadre moderne de la connaissance anthropologique des religions, on ne peut pas en rester à une expression rituelle telle qu'elle était au Moyen-Âge. L'islam, évidemment, va suivre ce mouvement, pourquoi pas? C'est ça que je vise.
You are concerned about the position of the foreign workers.
Yes, of course, because I am myself a migrant. That's why I try to mediate between this population and European population to make them understanding each other better. Because again, we have to know that these people had no chance to go to school in their own country, and they came here only to have the opportunity to work because they didn't find work in their countries.
And when the unemployment
became so important in European countries, then the rejection of these same workers who have been called here, who have been so needed, the rejection became very strong. And now we have a phenomenon in European countries which is purely political, because political parties are using
the presence of these people
here just for political purposes to gain votes in each election. And they excite the feeling of people here, the citizens, by saying, look to these people who are here. They are eating your bread. This is the expression used in France, for example, and I think it may be used here too. They are eating your bread. So you have to vote for us that we can push them away, that we can get rid of them. This is the kind of political campaign just to have votes. You mean they don't look to the social problems, to historical problems,
to human problems, to human rights, all this language,
which is so important for Europeans when they start to speak on level of civilization, culture, humanism, etc. Then they speak on human rights. But on the other side, they forget totally human rights and they speak like this. Of course, not all the political parties do this, but many of them are doing this. Even the leftists now become very careful to not show too much that they are helping these people. Because when they show that they are helping them, immediately the rightists take advantage of that and they say, look, they are helping these people. And it goes like this. This is
extremely bad for democracy.
It's bad for European culture. It's bad for European societies because they have to take their responsibilities. I define myself as a Mediterranean man, a Mediterranean cultivated mind. What's Mediterranean? I am born in Algeria, in the part of Algeria which is named Kabylie. Kabylie is just like Sardinia where we are now. When I am here in this climate,
in this vegetation,
with these people, this is the Mediterranean ethos of culture. And when you have this, you are educated in this ethos, you are absolutely open to other cultures, to welcome them, to go yourself in it, not to reject it.
This has been done through history
by all people living around the Mediterranean.
What
has changed this behavior, this basic cultural humanistic behavior in this area, Mediterranean area, is strategy for power developed in this same area which neglected this basic humanism and turned it towards a model for controlling strategically all the area as we know. So we have to be aware about that.
Mohammed, when they were asking you about your relationship to Islam, being an Islamic, that you smiled at the answer, yes, I'm humanist, I'm Islamic, but I'm also animist.
Yes.
Our religion in this region of Algeria, which is called Kabylie, is based on beliefs going back, far back, when Islam came, which means that we worship in Kabylie, for example, rocks, big rocks in the mountain. We worship very big, very old olive trees. We worship springs, which have, for example, special gas in it, and we say it is moved by spirits. And myself, yes, it's not a joke, it's true, I have made pilgrimages with my mother when I was a child to these places, to worship these places according to the tradition of Kabylie. This is linked to oral culture, and we have people who are still living according to these beliefs, but they live with these beliefs with the name of Islam. When I made the pilgrimage with my mother told me that we are going to worship God as Allah, as it is spoken in the Quran. So in her mind, like in the mind of all people like her, there is a mixture between the teachings of Islam, the beliefs of Islam, and this very ancient religion, which of course is considered as the true religion. And there is also a kind of hierarchy in the time I was learning at school as a young boy at school. There is a hierarchy between three cultures. The lowest one, the less developed one, the
Most marginalized one is, of
course, the Berber culture. Then you have the Arabic Islamic culture. And on the top, the most prestigious and the dominating culture was the French culture and the French language. And this hierarchy is still existing until now. And the struggle going on in North Africa about this question of languages,
for example,
and this hierarchy between the three struggling languages is still one of the main problems in North Africa.
And you belong to the lowest one?
I belong to the
lowest.
And I would say now,
Because
I came through all the difficulties and all the struggles, I am very proud to have been raised through all this line, coming from the lowest level, from the most marginalized, from the most closed on itself society, to all the discovery I made
step by step
through learning Arabic culture, learning Islamic thought, discovering all what one can discover through this very open and universal thought, and of course French culture, and through French culture, European history, European culture, European thought. And now I feel European after all this process, and I never forget my lowest initial starting point, which is Berber culture. And when I go back, I speak with my mother, only my mother language, because my mother doesn't write, she doesn't read, she doesn't know Arabic, she doesn't know French, she knows only this unwritten Berber, until now.